Angie made these, and they're prayer feathers.
They're what?
They're prayer feathers.
Oh.
So the idea is that when you're holding the feather, and it's wrapped at the bottom, that your prayers as you're sitting are leaving and flying to where they need to go. So if anyone would like to hold a feather during the service, you're welcome to. I'm going to just pass the cup around, and they can take one out. Can you sit for me? Can you sit? Takoda, sit. Nice job. Nice job. Wild at Heart is the name of my wolf wisdom talk today. He's like the least wild of our wolves in nature, but he is wild at heart. I just want to, he's going to be with me the entire talk because of our new gift. Yes. This is our wolf wedding poster. That's the bow tie. And we fashioned this bow tie for him just for this photo shoot. Look how good he is. Yeah. Now, I want to just say that thank you, Kat, and thank you, Casey, for the beautiful gift. Look at my big Bowie. So now, Takoda, for those of you who don't know, he was my Valentine's Day gift 6 years ago. Yes, he just turned 6 February 1st. Now, one of the things that I really love about the prayer feather, and one of the reasons I chose him today, is he's not been feeling well. He's got some problem with his hip, and he's just been kind of down in the doldrums. He's happy to be here, but I want to have him in our prayers today. So as we go through this service and what we're talking about, and the wellness and the passion of your heart and the passion of his purpose here and what he does for us. Now, we lived in Studio City when we first got him. And you see how big he is. Now, from the get-go, his paws were twice as big as his whole body. And he still has a very hard time just standing up, if you notice, because his feet are so heavy. We used to call them thunder paws. And you could not take him out for a walk, though. And by the time he was 3 months, he was the size of a medium-sized dog because of the parvo. Hi, guys. Come on in. Parvo in that neighborhood was very, very heavy duty. So until they finish all their shots, it's very dangerous to let them out on the road and to walk where other dogs are walking. So we had a hard time with that. So our trainer, who had 40 acres in Acton, said, just bring him up. We'll get in the golf cart and we'll take him on the dirt road and he can run in the canyons, which was, oh my gosh, it was like the most beautiful thing to watch him chase after us. And he got his strength in his legs and this freedom that he was able to experience while running there. Can you say hi to Annie? It's okay.
Hips working just fine.
Now this was a dirt road. It was on BLM land, and it was supposed to be open to the Department of Water and Power. So there was this dirt road, and we would go on the golf cart and then run him and slow him down, and run him and slow him down. And for the most part, he would not venture away from us. And then one day we were coming down the hill, and Takoda stayed at the top. And he was looking down over the canyon. And we stopped and looked to see what he was going to do. And he looked at us and he took off down the canyon, off the road. And we were like, oh, we got to go get him. But then we just kind of drove down to the bottom of it. And we actually, synchronicity would have it that he made it down at the same time we made it to him. And he couldn't have been more proud of himself. When their tails are like straight up, and Maddie, our trainer, would call it painting the sky. And we're like, just look at him painting the sky. He's doing exactly what he was supposed to do. But the phenomenon of him starting at the top, we were halfway down the mountain, and he timed it so perfectly, and then just took this terrain on and made it right as he came onto the road as we were approaching him. And then painting the sky all the way back to the, all the way back home. Now one day we took his puppies out. When the puppies were born, and we had to take them to exercise them too. And he took off after a deer. And the puppies were like, oh, where's he going? They were just kind of running around in circles, and they knew not to follow him, which was also a great instinct. But he just took off up that mountain. I saw the deer and head over. It was a big deer too. It was about as tall as me, the back of it. And he was just gone. And we were like, okay, now there's whistle train. And now he said to me, call him back. So I'm whistling, Takoda! Whistling Takoda, nowhere in sight. And she goes, okay, we're gonna have to go get your wolf. And so I went, okay. And he headed this way over the mountain with the deer, and I headed up towards where he went. And then all of a sudden I heard Maddie go, Colette, look. And I go, what? And she pointed this way, and I was headed this way. And Takoda was already back down around the way he went. Coming over to me, hiding in the bushes, looking through like the camouflage. It took me a minute to see him. And he's staring at me with a look like, where are you going? This look on his face. Where are you going? What are you doing? I'm like, I'm looking for you. Good boy.
He's your best friend.
Now one day, we went to a party, and this friend of Paul's sister, she makes these brownies for him at the party, and she brought them home. And of course, we put them on the counter, and they're in this little paper bag. Well, I heard this like little fuss, and I found Takoda underneath the bed with the bag of brownies. And of course, you know the chocolate thing, and you got to get him away from them. And so I had, he's in training, and I've done everything that we've been doing, to socialize their mouths to other people. Yeah. But I reached under that bed to grab that brownie bag, and he had this wild look in his eyes, and he snapped at me with those baby milk teeth, I was like, I was so hurt. My heart was broken. I called Paul and go, I can't get it off from the bed. I can't get the brownies. And then he growled at me. We were trying to take something away from a wolf at that age. And it was like, but it was the first time I'd seen this look, that non-recognition, that he did not know who I was in that context. And of course, he was not giving up those brownies. Like he doesn't want to give up that muffin. Good boy. Working them on the whistle out in the wild when we do take them running like that, part of it is to take them off the prey. So this whistle is not bringing him off the muffin. Anyway, I'm going to talk a lot about passion today, and your passions, and what you're passionate for. And it's kind of black and white. At one point, it's all the love on the planet that's coming from, your experience, and that's what I got from Takoda. He was mine, and I bottle fed him, and he used to nurse on my arm up until he was 2 years old. But there are those moments where he would look at me and go, I'm going here, and you can't stop me. And for those of you who have children, I'm sure that those are times where you've had those times many times. Anyway, this is a quote by Joss Whedon, and I've said it before, but I love it. Passion, it lies in all of us, sleeping, waiting, and though unwanted, unbidden, it will stir, open its jaws and howl. It speaks to us, guides us. Passion rules us, and we obey. What other choice do we have? Passion is the source of our finest moments. The joy of love, the clarity of hatred, the ecstasy of grief. It hurts sometimes more than we can bear. If we could live without passion, maybe we'd know some kind of peace. But we would be hollow, empty rooms, shuttered and dank. Without passion, we'd be truly dead. Whew. So with that, we're going to say our meditative prayer. And know our passion. And everyone who can join me if they know it, and also for those of you who are new. Thank you. Of this intelligence, that we have a divine purpose because we were created divinely. And so I claim for each and every one of you that your heart's desires, your passions are informing you and giving you the wisdom to know which foot to put in front of the other automatically, to exercise this life plan that has been worked out for you. That is divine, that is mysterious, that is adventurous. And that your heart is your pounding beat, your beat of your heart is giving you the momentum that is telling you and informing you which way to go at all times. And everything else just falls away. I am so grateful for this knowing, this passion, this information that leads me to health, leads us to wellness, leads us to our heart's desires, leads us to love, leads us to love each other, leads us to love ourselves. And so I am so grateful for this knowing. I say thank you and thank you, thank you in advance for all the good that is coming to me. I thank you for all the good that has come before and the good that is here right now. I release it knowing that my word is done just as I have spoken for myself and for you and for Takoda and for my pack and for this property and this land and for this new black puppy who is coming our way. He is not yet named, but he is born March 6th. And so it is. Amen. Namaste. I couldn't keep it a secret. And so for me, for those of you who know me or anybody who knew me before, having and living with wolves was like the last and furthest thing from my consciousness. But it must be where I belong. Because I know it. I'm happy here in my heart informs me that. So I'm going to bring Greg to come up and sing for us. And he's going to sing Hunter Hayes' Somebody's Heartbreak. And please welcome him.
Yay!
just what you're thinking. Every little river running through your mind. You give and you take, you come and you go. Oh, you leave me here wondering if I'll ever know how much you care or how much you don't. Whatever you need, whatever you want. If you're gonna be somebody's heartbreak, if you're gonna be somebody's mistake, if you're gonna be somebody's first time, somebody's last time, baby, be mine. If you're looking to be somebody's just friends, little laughing, little loving, never calling again, that's just fine. Gonna be somebody's heartbreak, be mine. I guess that all I'm trying to tell you, a minute with you is better than two without. I won't be a fool, but I can't play it cool, so I'm playing it safe, and I'm breaking the rules. I'm wishing I had what I know that you got, so if you come my way, please don't stop. If you're gonna be somebody's heartbreak, if you're gonna be somebody's mistake, if you're gonna be somebody's first time, somebody's last time, baby, be mine. If you're looking to be somebody's just friends, little laughing, little loving, never calling again, that's just fine. You're gonna be somebody's heartbreak, be mine, be mine. If you're gonna be somebody's heartbreak, or someone's mistake, or their first time, or their last time, baby, be mine. If you're looking up at somebody's just friends, little laughing, little loving, never calling again, that's just fine. You're gonna be somebody's heartbreak, be mine, be mine.
You've got this life, and while you've got it, you'd better kiss like you only have one moment. Try to hold somebody's hand like you will never get another chance to. Look into people's eyes like they're the last thing you'll ever see. Watch someone sleeping like there's no time left. Jump if you feel like jumping. Run if you feel like running. Play music in your head when there is none. And eat cake like it's the only one left in the world. You know, it's funny, we do risk a lot living that way. And what are we risking? What the song says. You know, because you can't love that passionately, you cannot feel that passionately without risking the opposite of that in the absence of. Yes, everybody's nodding. It's true. But isn't it worth it? Because otherwise we have to go back to the other quote, which if you have no passion, then you're like a hollow, empty room, shuttered and dank. You might as well not bother. But, you know, the idea of, you know, I grew up with the fantasy if you're very, very good, and you do everything right, then all your dreams will come true. Well, I did that, and it took a long time. And you know, in between steps and in between moments and in between relationships to ever feel like that. Like all my dreams were coming true. And mostly because I didn't understand the journey, because I bought that. I bought it. I was really, really good, and I did everything right. And I got all the good grades, and I kept my, you know, nose clean. And I didn't risk, you know what I mean? I didn't run across that field and see what would happen. I stayed on the road, you know, then all my dreams would come true. And then, you know, at a certain point, you're just so busy following all the rules Do you know what I mean? So you don't get hurt. That, of course, you don't get hurt, but you don't get anything else either. Now I'm talking about literal, factual information, and you have to have reason. You have to be reasonable. You don't just, run across a field that there's or I'm going to say this because this was my childhood. You don't jump into a lake in the middle of a bunch of water moccasins. That's not reasonable. That's not, a passion. That's crazy. Especially as a kid when you're at the lake and they tell you if you see 2 on top of the water, there might be like another 30 down there and there may be. So when do you know that it's right though? I think that's the biggest question. It's like when do you know when you're risking your heart? When do you know when it's real passion and not neurosis? Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have to risk it anyway, and then everything falls apart, and then that's when you know it was neurosis and not passion. When you have to clean it all up, right? Like my first marriage. I'm probably every other relationship between that marriage and this one, Because what I was missing and lonely for, and I'm not going to call it neurotic, but it wasn't love. It was need. In the absence of, I mistook attention for love. But here's the thing. Nobody is your passion. Passion is within you. Like I can talk to you about this stuff and I would like to be like your teacher and teach you these things and then inspire you to take your passion and go where it leads you. But I'm not the passion. Glomming onto me doesn't make it happen for you. And that happens a lot. People find these spiritual things and they glom onto them and their leader, and they let them be gurus and then it's very scary. What's even scary is the leader allowing people to follow them like that. Because they buy into that they're the ones doing it to you. And a true healer in that respect will be the first one to tell you, like Jesus said, is that I didn't do that. That wasn't me. That was your faith did that. Your passion did the healing. I didn't do it. I may have facilitated it because I have tools and I have information. And I have a connection, and out of love, I want to help you. But I didn't do it for you. I can't be your passion. Nobody can be your passion. Your wife, your lover, your children, nobody can be your passion. We all know those parents that live and suck off of the life, sucking the life out of their own kids. So that they can feel better and feel like something. Because they've lost the ability to look within. And they've lost the ability or the faith in their own dreams and their own passions because somebody shut them down so long ago with those roles. That they couldn't move their feet except through somebody else's. I did that for a long time. But I have to, when I met Paul, it was such a story. I don't know if I'll go into the whole thing. Suffice it to say, I fell in love with his motorcycle first. I saw this blue shiny thing out of the corner of my eye, and I have a passion for motorcycle riding. And I was like, ooh, who's on the other end of that? So I was totally in another space, looking for something else, and my feet just took me over in that direction. I could not help myself. And I was checking out the seat, by the way, because someone who likes to ride with a woman has a seat that will accommodate a woman. If anybody knows about motorcycle riders. And a seat, a sole seat that does not have room for a woman is not the area and the man you want to go for.
Right.
Because you can't even ride on his motorcycle. And it was one of those seats. So I get there and I'm like, oh man. It's a beautiful seat though. Anyway, out of the corner of my eye, I see Paul with his ex-wife standing having a conversation. And they were looking at me weird, like I had interfered in their conversation, which I really wasn't. I was in the street, they were on the sidewalk. But they were looking at me, and I, you know, that moment where you want to say something to kind of get out of the comfortable situation, I was like, well, hi. I can tell you something about this man who owns this bike. I can't get my foot in here, but so they kind of part ways, and I see the helmet in his hand. I'm like, oh, this is your bike. So now where do I go? How do I get out of this? Luckily, a bunch of swarm of guys came over to look at the motorcycle because they'd just come out of the spiritual center we were going to. And they're like looking and checking out his bike. And I'm like, oh, okay, I got out of that one. Except his ex-wife corners me and gets in my face and says, what were you going to say about the man who owns that bike?
Uh-oh.
I swear to God, she's at my neck. Awkward. You think? Now what I left out is that there was more of a conversation. I kind of shamed him and said, you know, if you're going to have a bike, you should have one that your wife can ride on. You know, because I didn't know her, I didn't know him so well. And they said, oh, we have another bike at home. And I'm like, oh. So we had this conversation. She goes, tell me, what were you going to say about this man who owns this bike? And I said, well, what I was going to say is the man who owns this bike doesn't have a woman in his life. And she, in my face, says, well, he doesn't.
Oh!
I'm like, okay, I could dig a bigger hole. And now she's got her back to him, and he heard it. Talk about heartbreak. I saw his whole body, everything, you know, the cells in his skin just started to disintegrate. He's putting on his helmet, though. This is what it looked like. He's putting on his helmet. Get my gloves on. He's like trying to get on that motorcycle, and it's surrounded by people who are going, ooh, ah. He's like trying to get out of there, right? And it gets a longer story, but basically, I tried to get out of there by calling my friend. His name is Amy. He's French and he knows about gardening, and I was looking for someone to tell me about dirt and what you plant dirt in, because that's what I was going to do for my birthday. And so I turned around thinking I could just grab, see Amy from afar, even though I knew he had long gone. So I turned around and was like, Amy! Amy! And she's like, what do you need Amy for? And I said, well, I have this problem with my dirt, and I wanted to plant it. And she went, well, Paul's an arborist. On a silver platter. Paul's an arborist. And I'm like, that's trees, right? He's like, what do you need? And I go, dirt. It's like, where do you live? Down the street. When are you going to be there? After lunch. What's your number? I give him my number. So anyway, he proceeds to come over, he measures out my dirt, he sits on my steps and smokes for the next 2.5 hours telling me his whole life story that I could relate to. That I could relate to. And so here's this man sitting on my steps who I just saw get publicly humiliated by someone supposed to love him. Do you know what I mean? I broke his heart right in the middle of the street in front of everybody. And I know that. I knew that. And so I listened, and I was friendly with it. And I could feel those feelings, you know? And I was like, nope. He's not even divorced yet. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not going there. He's 2 years away from where I need somebody to be, and I want to get married. That's where I was. That's where my feet were leading me. And he wasn't even close. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'll just be a friend, blah, blah, blah. Anyway. I had a girlfriend who came over while he was helping me plant the garden. And within 5 minutes, she was like, "Are you guys dating?" And out of my mouth, "No!" And then I saw him completely disassemble and disseminate again. You know what I mean? It was just, I hurt him because I had already arranged this idea and moved my feelings and what I was going through about him in all different directions except the direction that I was led to the bike in the first place.
Forgot the nursery.
I can't go through the whole thing, Paul. He built me a garden for my birthday.
Oh.
And that was part of one of the things, the big gifts, you know. Well, now I have to double. Let's go. It's okay. So my girlfriend, that night, you know, Paul went away and didn't have dinner with us. And she said, "So what's the story with him and why aren't you going for it?" I've known her for about 30 years or so. She's been through the entire history of every relationship I've ever been in. And she said, I'm like, the same thing I just told you. He's 2 years away, he's not in a divorce, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to risk my heart, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, "Well, if you don't go for it, I will."
Whoa.
And this prayer. Yeah. This voice in me came all the way up from the arches of my feet and out my, not out my mouth, but in my brain nearly exploded and went, "Oh no, you won't." And then the next day, I forgot. Okay. So then that night, she went away, and I said this prayer because, you know, they had gotten together later in life, and this is what my dream was. This is my passion, and it worked out so miserably that they hated each other on that level that they would treat each other like that in public. So this is so funny. This is not where I was going to go today, but this is where we are. So I said a huge prayer, you know, like I say, and I knew that I had been waiting for Paul as long as that he's been waiting for me, but I didn't use his name. And I said that I open my heart to all the gifts that the universe has to offer. And I say, yes, thank you for an avalanche of abundance and gifts and the love that is coming my way from the man of my dreams that I've been waiting for, right?
Wow.
And so it is. And it was one of the most powerful prayers I'd ever done sitting in my living room. Paul comes to get me the next morning and takes me to this nursery that's in the middle of North Hollywood. I don't even know if you know it exists. But we went off road and there was like 4 acres of just flowers and plants and roses, and it was great. We get halfway in and Paul's pointing at things going, "This is that and that's that and that would work in your garden and that would work in your garden." And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. The reason I'm having a party and people are going to come and bring me plants is because I can't afford this, so I'm just letting you know. So I'm here for dirt. I just need some dirt.
Free dirt.
Right? And he looks at me and he says, "Well, why don't you let me do this for you? I'll get them." And of course, this thing inside me that I was taught to say, which is no. No, we don't know each other well enough for you to do that for me. And then I remembered my prayer before I said the no. I'm like, bawling, seriously, and started crying in his truck. I was crying, and I'm starting 52. And I decided, the next man, it's all going to be out there. But, no hidden things, no waiting for anything, no like hiding this and then revealing it later. If you're going to want, if it's it, then they'll take me right now the way it is. So I'm just saying everything. And, so I'm crying. I told him about the prayer. I told him about my girlfriend. It was all out there. It was just out there in the front of his truck. And I said, so I'm going to allow you, based on my prayer, to gift me some plants, but only as much as is appropriate for the fact that we've only been friends for a day. Paul fills his truck up. You know, and he takes me to these little sections, and I had never had anyone be so kind to me. You know what I mean? I had been in the withholdings. You know what I mean? I'm going to withhold this. I'm going to withhold this. And then I would withhold this, and I would withhold this. So right now, on the first day, I've known him, we're friends for a day, and he throws me into a section of roses and says, pick something. Pick something. You know, and the whole time I could think about this prayer, and I go, I asked for this. This stuff really works. But I almost said no. So it wasn't my passion saying, no, I won't let you buy these things for me. It was my fear and my past heartbreak that was dictating how much I was going to allow in my life. We went from the roses to other things, and then we came home, and he, planted everything. And, the story goes on and on and on, which I don't really have time to do today, but he brought his guys over. That was Monday, and on Tuesday he brought his guys over, and my garden, it was no bigger than this room. And yet, he brought 13 guys.
Oh.
They were hanging from trees. Yeah. My landlord got a fresh tree trimming, which he did not pay for. And I had a garden, which was what my wish was. From the time I was looking out my window from the 9th story in New York City and said, I need to live someplace where I can go outdoors. And what it took to get me from New York to Los Angeles to this apartment to meet this man to put that garden in. Because along the way, I was trusting what I was supposed to be doing. I was trusting where my feet were taking me. But by the way, that move was really painful. It was not an easy thing to do. Giving up everything that I had built for 11 years in New York. I had a nice life, but I was looking out that window and I felt hollow and empty. Even though it was what I had created, it was time to go somewhere else. I had built something beautiful and I was alone in it. And there was no one to share it with except my cat. It was really an amazing process to get from there while I was just, working on this talk, to leave someplace where it was successful, to then traverse where and what I had to go through in order to get here. And look where I am now. Not just this beautiful garden that was the transition between here to then Paul's house with the wolves, and then to be here where, I can walk outdoors at any time. No matter what window I'm looking out, I can see outdoors and not the building next to me. And so something in me, it was more than just the nature, that I needed to get back to nature, that I needed to be outdoors. I needed to be here standing in front of you right now saying whatever this talk is inspiring me to do. And the only thing is that, I'm proud that I had been working so much past the neurosis and the attaching myself to people who weren't mine. Because I was lonely and heartbroken enough to just take whatever crumbs I could get. And I didn't belong to them either. Even though there were moments in our relationships that we felt like we did. And the whole point where I got off track was that that planting led to the party, and then after the party was over, I was having these enormously incredible feelings about Paul. And they didn't feel good. It felt like an ache. You know that thing? You know what I mean? It's like, I have to be in his presence or else I will explode. You know, so sometimes passion feels like pain, and the word passion actually comes from the word pain. And so you're walking this, you know, double-edged sword every time you follow your heart's desires, and yet this is what I'm here to tell you, is that there is nothing else to do but that. Or you're left with whatever day comes your way that you just, you know, traverse through. Get done. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise your life is a to-do list. And there's plenty of that. Plenty of to-dos. Passion has little to do with euphoria and everything to do with patience. It's not about feeling good. I wasn't promised that as a little girl. It is about endurance. Like patient, passion comes from the same Latin root, pacti. It does not mean to flow with exuberance. It means to suffer. Now, I'm not saying we should go out there and suffer. Persistence, perfection, patience, power, prioritize your passion. Keep it sane. In other words, don't dive headfirst into a pit of water moccasins. Know the difference. Know the difference. You know, as much as I love to ride, I knew who to climb on the back of a motorcycle with, and who not to climb on the back of a motorcycle with. And when I was wrong, who never to get on a motorcycle with again. You know what I mean? So there's this fine moment in there. And you know, there are people who follow their passions, and from the outside, it looks to us like they've got it all handled. They've made their dreams happen. But just look at all of the stars, the people that we know that had everything or seemed to have everything, who either died of an overdose or committed suicide. I mean, it's not the thing that you're after. That's it, guys. It's still always inside you. It's what's in you that's worth it. It's what's in you that makes it a dream come true. It's not the things that you acquire, the things that happen to you. And as much as I love that man over there, which I do, he's not my passion. It's his passion and my passion that led us in the same place together so that we could connect at the very right time in our lives for what we were asking to do with our lives. You know, I was on those dating sites, by the way. You know what I mean? I was meeting people my age and they were done. I'd be sitting at coffee with people who are done, waiting to be done. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? I'm like, I'm just beginning. Where's the guy who wants to begin with me? Do you know what I mean? Each new adventure, because I'm certainly not done. You know what I mean? They've done their life, they're almost to a retirement, blah, blah, blah. They've had their children, you know. It's like, I haven't done any of that. Where's mine? You know, it's like, and then of course I'm thinking, cougar, I'm gonna have to go for somebody 26. Which I did once. You know what I mean?
Bobcat.
Bobcat calls me.
Worked for Alaska.
It did. It did. And I still am a cougar. I'm 3 years older than him. But you know, I had met a lot of men who were just done. You could feel it in their energy that they just wanted someone to retire with and watch TV with. I can't do that. I can't do that. And so, you know, inside me with what I wanted, what I was driven to, and what I was writing about in my journal, I saw this movie. This is for anybody who out there, it's just a tool if you want to use it. But that movie on the Lake House, has anybody seen that with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock? You know how they were living at the same time, but they were communicating like years apart, and then finally found each other. And I went, that's my guy. That's my whole relationship. So I started writing in letters. I started writing the guy. I didn't know it was Paul. Because I couldn't visualize anybody, you know, all the exercises do to draw it in, you know, I just kept writing what a beautiful day we had together. And mostly I decided to write about the way I liked how he was treating me, rather than what he was going to make me feel like. I started writing about how I wanted to be treated, and then I would write it as though it happened that day. 3 months later, that was the only thing that I've ever done about calling a guy in that worked. That worked. The right guy was to write about the day and how he was treating me and how that made me feel. Because I made myself the important one in my fantasy, in my dream, in my calling. I made myself the one that was worthy. Does that make sense? Rather than drawing another person in that I had to prove myself to. That was never going to happen. Oh. Now what do I give up here? I went so off for what I was going to talk about. He was now in that state of fire that she loved. She wanted to be burnt. You know what I mean? You felt that way? It's like, ooh, come here. It's very important to have that kind of feelings in your life. And I'm not talking about, you know, most of the things about passion that I was finding was about the other person. It can be about what you want to do with your life. It can be about your children. It can be about your art. You know, Van Gogh said, "A great fire burns within me, but no one stops to warm themselves at it." And passers-by only see a wisp of smoke. He was not famous when he was alive. Nobody got it when he was alive. What was coming out of him was new for that day. They didn't get it. It was too bright. It was too much. Plus there was this new technique that you basically had to be at least 10 feet away from the painting to even see the image, because if you got any closer it was just color. And it's a fascinating thing to be able to paint something that only people can see from back here without a computer. And you know, if anybody knows the story of Van Gogh and how tortured his life was, and how alone he was in it. And so thank God he had that expression. That makes sense, you know what I mean? Sometimes we don't get our value until later. And a lot of that art that isn't taken out of schools now, which is exactly what we need in order for us to know ourselves. To get the clues of our subconscious about whether we are in trouble. Do you know what I mean? So that we can self-inform. Art and those kind of expressions, dance and music, are the way that we know where we're at any given moment, so we can correct it and get back on course. No one can do that for you. And throughout history, we end up eventually embracing what's different and not what's the same. Our uniqueness becomes more important eventually than, you know, the system that says, do this, do this, do this, and then you are lovable enough for us. You know? But those days are over, I believe. They're coming to be over. There's a school. There are 2 schools, one in Santa Clarita and one down there where there are no desks. That's my kind of school. No desks. Also known as passion, I said quietly, passion has overthrown tyrants and freed prisoners and slaves. Passion has brought justice where there was savagery. Passion has created freedom where there was nothing but fear. Passion has helped souls rise from the ashes and their horrible lives and building something better, stronger, more beautiful. Passion is a feeling that tells you This is the right thing to do. Nothing can stand in my way. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. This feeling is so good that it cannot be ignored. I'm going to follow my bliss and act upon this glorious sensation of joy. And that's Wayne Dyer. That ache that I woke up with, that I felt for Paul, was not agony. It was, I have to have this in my life. And the ache was for what had been absent, that he woke up in me. Okay. It took me years to figure out that upset was upset and tumultuousness was not the same thing as passion. Love is not drama. You can see that on TV today. Drama is not fear and sensationalism. What makes drama work, because I used to teach it, is a beginning, middle, a climax, and a resolve. And it has to have these elements: love, passion, humor, vulnerability. Without those things, you cannot engage people. You tell them. So if your drama in your life does not have love, passion, humor, and vulnerability, then it's not love.
Right on cue.
That's perfect timing too. You can get ready while I'm finishing.
Look at myself a one-way flight. Gotta see the color in your eyes. Telling myself I'm gonna be alright. Without you, baby, it's a waste of time. Our first date, girl, when the seasons change, got washed away in the summer rain. Can't undo or fall like minutes, 'cause love don't know what distance is. I know it's crazy, but I don't want good and I don't want good enough. No, can't say can't be without your love. Front porch and one more kiss doesn't make sense to anybody else. Who cares if you're all I think about? Search the world and I know now it ain't right. You ain't lost your mind. Well, I don't want easy, I want crazy. You with me, baby, let's be crazy. I wanna be scared, don't wanna know why. I wanna feel good, don't have to be mine. World makes all kinds of rules for love. I say you gotta let it do what it does. No, I don't want just another hug and a kiss goodnight. Catching up calls and dating sometimes. Love will make me still believe that we're the kind of crazy people wish that they could be. Yeah, I know we're crazy, but I don't want good and I don't want good enough. I can't say can't be without your love. Can't want you one more kiss doesn't as well. Maybe it's just we think too much. No need to play it safe in love. Let's be crazy.
One of our founding fathers, John Adams, says, facts are stubborn things, and whatever may be our wishes, our inclinations, or the dictates of our passion, they cannot alter the state of facts and evidence. So I'm going to end this talk with some reason. Mostly for the kids, because I'm not telling you to go out and break rules. I'm just telling you to listen to your heart. And that nobody out there knows better for you what your heart's desire is and where you should move your feet and in what direction. So, Khalil Gibran says this, your reason and your passion are the rudder and the sails of your seafaring soul. If either your sails or your rudder be broken, you can but toss adrift or else be held at a standstill in mid-seas. For reason, ruling alone, is a force confining, and passion unattended is a flame that burns to its own destruction. Therefore, let your soul exalt your reason to the height of passion that it may sing. And let it direct your passion with reason, that your passion may live through its own daily resurrection, and like the phoenix rise above its own ashes. Right? If it's broken, find out what's broken and fix it. Tell the truth that your rudder's broken and you're sitting dead in the water. And figure out how to move it back in the direction it is. And make sure you got a rudder rather than just flying out of control like a watercolor. And find that balance and harmony in this. So I thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so happy to see your faces all the time and when you come back. But please stay with us. We ran a little late today, but we have refreshments, so please do that. If you want to partake in our burden basket, it's over there, so you can write your burdens, and we don't have a fire today, but just fold them up and put them in a basket. We're going to do our last song. It's called Face of God, for those of you who don't know it. While Paul's setting up, I'll give you the sign language to it. It's you are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. Here we go. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are a part of me. Thank you. By the way, if those letters help you and you would like to take them, please take them home. We'll have more. But if it helps you to take a memory home that will help you in your prayers, then I really invite you. You will have them as a gift from Margaret. Thank you so much. Thank you.